Günther told me that he tried to escape over the East German border, and they caught him. The Russians caught him, and they put him in the basement of a house for a couple of days, and they didn't get any food or water. And the people that had been in there had also tried to escape. They were starved, and he said they detained him for a while, but they let him go. He said he tried it again, and he was better at it this time, and he got out of communist Berlin, or communist Germany. He got into West Germany. He lived with an aunt or something like that in Hanover for a little bit, and then took a plane to Canada and lived in America for the rest of his life. So when Günther would come into my museum, he was quite enthralled to see all these uniforms. He said, "This takes me back to my youth." I can remember I had have a SS officer's dagger, and I handed it to him, and he pulled it out of the scabbard, and it says, "Meine Ehre heißt Treue," my honor is called loyalty. And literally, I kid you not, tears started rolling out of his eyes. And he said, "These guys were my heroes when I was a little kid." So I talked to him about it. I said, "Hey, they weren't the best guys in the world, Günther." And he says, "Yeah, but they were our guys, da 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 da." He told me that Winston Churchill was the greatest terrorist ever for the bombing of Dresden. And I tried to explain to him why they bombed Dresden, because they were shooting the V-1 rockets. And Churchill had told Hitler, "Quit shooting those V-2 rockets, or we're going to bomb another German city," and that was the consequence. In any event, Günther was placed in the military at the end of the war. He was in the Luftwaffe, and he was sent to Denmark. And he talked about, he didn't see combat there. He was just there very briefly when the war ended and they surrendered. And he talked about throwing his rifle into a big pile and going to a collection point. And when they were walking to the collection point, they still had their arms. And he said they were sitting down, and as they got up, one guy had a burp gun hanging on him, and it went off, and it shot the guy next to him in the stomach. One round hit the guy in the stomach. And he said, what are they going to do? They're all leaving. So they just left the guy there, and, somebody stayed back to attend to him. But he goes, "I'm sure the guy died." How stupid at the end of the war, some guy's got a loaded gun and accidentally goes off and shoots your neighbor in the gut. So he talked about being captured by the British, and he was at some table somewhere, doing something as far as administration with the British soldiers. And he said a German officer came up that had a Knight's Cross around his neck. And he said when those British saw that Knight's Cross, they stood up and they saluted the German officer because he was wearing the Knight's Cross. For those of you that don't understand that, the Knight's Cross is the German equivalent to the Medal of Honor. So he also said that the British soldiers were very keen to find anybody that had fought in Africa. They wanted to find the Africa Corps guys. They wanted to talk to the guys that were in Africa. He said they got along well with the British. The British treated them good. They were being fed, and prison camp wasn't bad. But Günther used to come into my museum, and he got enthralled with this stuff. He used to just love to look at this stuff and tell me stories about it. Unfortunately, a year or so ago, he died. So, God bless Günther Müller. Signing off from the Lest We Forget Museum. Good night.